Good morning, and welcome to this glorious celebration. I am Noel Wilk, and I have the honor of serving our university as Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you our 18th Chancellor of the University of Mississippi. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Glenn Boyce.
Welcome to the most anticipated and inspiring day of the academic year, the day we recognize the success of our students, families, faculty, and staff. Today is a day to be celebrated, cherished, and remembered. The first Ole Miss students graduated in 1851. Interestingly enough, I'm told that the first commencement at the University of Mississippi took place in July of 1849, at the end of the new university's first academic year. Although with no graduates, the institution conferred no degrees. In the words of a university historian, our famous historian, the late Dr. David Sansing, the four-day event surrounding the official program included sumptuous banquets, a commencement ball, and many, many speeches. It was a gala celebration. Well, this year's commencement will not involve a ball or sumptuous banquets. It is certainly exceptional, as it has required a great deal of planning, flexibility, patience, and hard work for both our university and for the students, families, and friends assembled here today. It will be written about by our future historians and be remembered by all of us present today as a special celebration of your magnificent achievement against the backdrop of a global pandemic. This ceremony honors all that has been done to get us to this day. Now I'd like to introduce Corinne Locker, who will receive a Master of Music degree with an emphasis in music performance in our ceremonies today. And she will lead us in as we sing the national anthem. Will you please stand?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. At the rocket's record, the bombs bursting, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, see, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Corinne. That was absolutely marvelous, absolutely beautiful. Thank you. We welcome the families and friends of the graduates to campus, and we give thanks for this beautiful day. Many of you have come from great distances to see your sons, daughters, spouses, relatives, or friends receive diplomas. We know our graduates are grateful for your support and your encouragement. Graduates, it is our tradition to give you a moment to stand and express your appreciation to those who loved, encouraged, and supported you during your years at Ole Miss. Please stand and let's give them a rousing round of applause. The men and women of our faculty have committed their lives to teaching, research, and service. They have taught, challenged, nurtured, and inspired our graduates while helping them prepare for the future. They have also established friendships that continue for life. Will the faculty please stand and let us express our appreciation to you. Thank you, faculty. Members of the Board of Trustees of the State Institutions of Higher Learning are appointed by the Governor, confirmed by the Senate, and serve 9-year terms. We are grateful for their unwavering dedication to higher education in Mississippi. Today, we are pleased to have Mr. Chip Morgan to represent our governing board and join us in our platform party. Please join me in welcoming Trustee Morgan. I am now pleased to welcome Provost Wilken back to the podium.
Thank you, Chancellor Boyce. I am pleased to introduce the distinguished and dedicated platform party who lead the university and join us today to commend our graduates. As I introduce you, please stand and remain standing. I ask that the audience please hold your applause until all are introduced. Ms. Charlotte Parks, Vice Chancellor for Development. Mr. Stephen Holley, Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance. Dr. Charlotte Pegues, Interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Assistant Provost, and Assistant Professor of Leadership and Counselor Education. Dr. Josh Gladden, Vice Chancellor for Research and Sponsored Programs and Professor of Physics and Astronomy. Mr. Eduardo Prieto, Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management. Dr. Shambhoda Mead, Interim Vice Chancellor for Diversity and Community Engagement. Mr. Jim Zook, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer. Dr. Donna Strum, Associate Provost, Professor of Pharmacy Administration, and Research Professor in the Research Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Dr. Rich Forget, Associate Provost and Professor of Political Science. Mr. Perry Sansing, Interim General Counsel and Special Assistant to the Chancellor for Governmental Affairs. Dr. Douglas Sullivan Gonzalez, Dean of the Sally McDonald Barksdale Honors College and Professor of History. Professor Cecilia Botero, Dean and Professor of University Libraries. Our student leaders joining us on the platform are Mr. Joshua Mannery, Associated Student Body President for the current academic year. Ms. Kelsa Pelletieri, Graduate Student Council President for the current academic year. The remainder of our platform party will be introduced later as they play a role in this morning's ceremony. Please join me in expressing our appreciation to this distinguished platform party. Each year, as part of our honors and awards convocation, the LCM Hood Outstanding Teacher Award is presented to a member of our faculty. This award recognizes excellence in the classroom, exceptional engagement with students. It is the highest honor that a University of Mississippi faculty member can receive for teaching. This year, Dr. Patrick Alexander, Associate Professor of English and African American Studies, was the recipient of this singular honor. While he can't be with us today to celebrate our graduates, can we please show our appreciation for his accomplishment? The Distinguished Research and Creative Achievement Award recognizes and pays tribute to a faculty member whose career and achievements have generated national and international accolades. Someone who has been a leader in their chosen field, who has inspired and encouraged others, who is admired and respected by their peers, and who has made outstanding lifelong contributions to their profession, their discipline, and our institution. This year's award recipient is Dr. Greg Jumper, Chair and Professor of Chemistry and Biochemistry. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Jumper. I'll now turn things over to Flint Christian, Senior Class President, who will give remarks.
Thank you, Provost Wilkin. Hey, y'all. All right. Good morning, classmates, faculty, family, and friends. First, I'd like to give a quick happy birthday shout out to my dad and my granddad. They're in the building this morning, and I just wanted to say happy birthday to both of you, and congrats on getting even older. My name is Flint Christian, and this past year, I've had the honor to serve as your senior class president. With that position comes the responsibility of choosing a senior class gift, one that cements our class's legacy and gives back to this university that's given us so much. To choose this gift, this past summer, our Vice President, Evelyn Engel, our Treasurer, Meredith McDonald, and I reflected on our time at the University of Mississippi. We thought about what we love here and what we wanted to see improved. We decided on two goals: to provide direct, tangible support to students here, and to continue to make this place a home for each and every student in the coming years. So this year, we partnered with the Center for Inclusion and Cross-Cultural Engagement to design a gift. Together with their director, Dr. E.J. Edney, we have created the Inclusive Excellence Retention Fund. This gift will remove financial barriers for students who make it their mission to improve diversity, inclusion, and respect for all people here at the university. We've worked hard throughout this year to raise funds and spread awareness throughout Oxford and beyond, and I'm excited to announce that we've raised over $22,000 to give to the fund. We know that the CICCE and the Inclusive Excellence Retention Fund will keep students on campus involved and engaged with organizations and movements of all types, making Ole Miss better and better far into the future. Now, looking back at our time here, we've really done a number on this school. But I think our class has left a legacy to be proud of. Over the past 4 years, I've seen the absolutely incredible things that our class has achieved. I've gotten to know the kindest, funniest, friendliest people, and I'm sure y'all have too. I couldn't be prouder to call myself a member of the class of 2021. But unfortunately, now is that time when we have to look each other in the eye and realize it's time to say goodbye. It's time to appreciate the work you've put in to reach this moment, the people at the University of Mississippi who've helped you get here, and all the memories you've made along the way. With those memories of all the good times, smiles, and laughter we've had here, I'll leave y'all with a little quote I always come back to. The mother of the late great poet and author Maya Angelou said, "You don't have to think about doing the right thing. If you're for the right thing, you do it without thinking." We may leave this place, but at the University of Mississippi, we learned what the right thing is, and we'll always be for it. Thank you all. Hell yeah, damn right, God bless, and hotty toddy.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Mr. Lampkin Butts is president of the Ole Miss Alumni Association, is from Laurel, Mississippi. Please welcome Mr. Butts.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to serve this year as president of the Ole Miss Alumni Association, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning to welcome graduates, family, friends, and faculty. I'm so pleased that all of you could join us today for this momentous occasion in these students and now graduates' lives. First of all, a big congratulations to the University of Mississippi class of 2021. Yes, yes. You have completed your degree, and for that I say, job well done. Today you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor over the past several years before going out into the world and making a difference in your own unique way. Now that you're graduates, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you as official Ole Miss alumni. I know you have made many friends here at Ole Miss, and if you're like me, those contacts and friendships will be with you the rest of your life. And we want to encourage you now to officially become members of the Ole Miss Alumni Association. Over 1,000 of the 2021 graduates have already joined and have already done so. To stay engaged with these people, let me encourage you to be involved in your Ole Miss alumni clubs that are spread across the country. In fact, we would love to connect you with an Ole Miss group in your new hometown, so please contact the Alumni Association for more information. The memories you have made here at the University of Mississippi will last a lifetime, and you can commemorate your experience at Ole Miss by personalizing a brick throughout campus for students, families, and faculty to see for generations to come. If you have not yet purchased your Ole Miss brick, I encourage you to do so. It's a tradition that gets bigger and bigger every year. I have 3 children who are all Ole Miss graduates. My son also graduated from the Ole Miss Law School. I truly understand the value of our Ole Miss traditions and the relationships formed as a result of these traditions that have impacted my life and the lives of my children and grandchildren at nearly every stage. I hope you cherish the same memories and can share them with your children and grandchildren one day. No matter the path you choose in life, it is important to never forget the values and knowledge gained here at your alma mater as you go into the workplace, into our communities, into our schools. We can all make a difference in those places if we just set our minds to it and remain steadfast in our commitments. Congratulations and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Butts, for joining us today and sharing those words. It is now my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our distinguished commencement speaker, Jonathan Reckford. Mr. Reckford, we are grateful to welcome you to our beautiful campus and to hear your remarks on this momentous day. To our students and all of our guests, this is a special treat for our community to hear from Jonathan Reckford, Chief Executive Officer of Habitat for Humanity International. He is the distinguished leader in the nonprofit and corporate worlds. As such, he brings a well-rounded and globally informed perspective. Habitat for Humanity International has helped more than 35 million people construct, rehabilitate, or preserve their homes. Since Mr. Reckford assumed the Habitat CEO role in 2005, local Habitat organizations have increased the scope of their work tremendously. In all 50 states and more than 70 countries, Habitat has grown from serving 125,000 people annually to more than 5.9 million people last year. Yes, you heard me right. 125,000 people to 5.9 million last year. Yes, just think about that. They are serving more people than twice the number of our entire population in our great state each year. Mr. Reckford graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he was a Morehead Scholar. He also received a Henry Luce Scholarship, which enabled him to do marketing work for the Seoul Olympic Organization Committee and coach the Korean rowing team for the 1988 Summer Olympics. He earned his Master of Business Administration from Stanford University, Graduate School of Business, before spending much of his career in the for-profit sector. He has held executive and managerial positions at Goldman Sachs, Marriott, the Walt Disney Company, and Best Buy. Mr. Reckford is an active participant in a number of organizations, including Chair of Leadership 18, an alliance of CEOs from the nation's largest nonprofits, a member of the Freddie Mac Housing Advisory Council, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and a member of the Urban Steering Committee for the World Economic Forum. Additionally, he has earned a number of accolades. He was named the most influential nonprofit leader in America in 2017 by the Nonprofit Times. He is also the author of Our Better Angels, 7 Simple Virtues That Will Change Your Life and the World. He and his wife, Ashley, have 3 children and live in Atlanta. Habitat for Humanity is devoted to building strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter. At the University of Mississippi, we value that same sense of leadership, along with the essential value of contributing to the greater community and to the world. To the class of 2021, as you prepare to take the next step in your journey, I know you will be inspired by Mr. Reckford's insight and his example of servant leadership. Mr. Reckford, we're very grateful to have you here for this momentous day for our university and for this class of 2021. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan Reckford.
Thank you, Chancellor Boyce, for that very gracious introduction. It is so exciting to be with you. I have long wanted to visit Oxford, one of the legendary college towns, having grown up in another college town. Who knew that 14 months ago we would be so excited to be physically together? This is actually my first in-person event since we were urged to stay home, to stay safe. I'm hoping even listening to a commencement speech at 8 a.m. is looking pretty good. I am thrilled to be able to offer you my congratulations. This is a great moment for you and your families. I pray that we're on our way out of this pandemic and that we can safely enjoy more and more gatherings like this one. Parents, there's one more big celebration ahead for which you don't have to consider COVID restrictions. It's the moment you've been waiting for, the day when job offers start coming in. Then, class of 2021, you will officially become full-time, wage-earning, tax-paying, fine citizens. That means many of you can sign up for your own medical benefits and even pay your portion of the cell phone bill. This friend of mine said, now I've gone from preaching to meddling. This clearly wasn't the senior year that any of you had imagined or planned. But you're a very resilient group of college students who face the challenges of remote learning, curtailed social lives, and a daunting job market. You've learned so much more than the topics covered on your final exams. During the pandemic, you figured out new ways of doing things and discovered an appreciation of the ordinary. The shared experiences of COVID-19 have brought us closer together, even as we've been physically separated. We've developed a deep empathy for those we love and have felt a calling to help those we've never met. The other big marker of your college years, the reawakening of racial justice issues, has rallied many students on this campus to action. Many of you responded with both determination and compassion. And you realize that sitting down to talk about differences can bring about real change. You experience firsthand what it means to create community, to appreciate diversity, and to insist upon the value of all people. You have many reasons to be proud, not the least of which is your senior gift. Now, I know for you students, you've already been thinking about the next chapter of your life for months. But I would ask you to keep pondering. Consider these 3 questions. They have nothing to do with grad school or the profession you've been preparing for. I'm asking you to think about who you are, how you will define success, and how you will find your purpose. First, have you determined who before what? When I look back over my career and connect the dots, I can now see how it all fits together, even if it didn't make sense at the time. One valuable lesson I learned early on is that ultimately your success will be measured not by what you've achieved, but by who you are, by your character. The word character is from Greek. It means a tool that marks, cuts, or engraves us. Our character is our marking. Each action we take, each conversation we have, is part of how we are marked as individuals. One of the defining elements of character is knowing where your personal line is. You have to know what you will and won't do before you're faced with certain situations. My grandmother was a civil and human rights pioneer and New Jersey congresswoman. Her advice, when I expressed the desire to go into politics, was that you had to decide that line in advance and be willing to give up your job before crossing it. Otherwise, you end up sliding down that slippery slope and ending up somewhere you never imagined. From the very start, you've all been influenced by people and events around you. In our increasingly polarized world, you can find even very young children espousing extreme views. Your own politics as a child were likely those of your parents or other family members. And the propensity to empathize with others was likely nurtured or quashed by those around you. By this point in life, though, you all have the power to assess all those influences and decide which voices you will listen to. When you consider how much you are affected by what goes on around you, think about the messages that bombard you on social media and listen to the phrases in your conversations. Likely you picked up a few ways of expressing yourself that you didn't bring to Oxford. Then consider the really important matters. Over the last year, likely you took a stand on social issues that might have been at odds with people you care about. That's when we have to dig deep and stand firm on the things that character dictate. Just like my grandmother said. She was my first and perhaps most influential role model. Her name was Millicent Fenwick, and she was quite a colorful personality. She encouraged me at an early age to care for the lost and left out of our world. Have any of you ever heard of the comic strip Doonesbury? The character of Lacey Davenport in that strip was modeled after my grandmother, who had a very imposing presence. Prior to her public life, she'd written the Vogue Book of Etiquette, bestseller in 1947. In order to graduate to the grown-up table at her house, one had to be able to sit up straight, hold your fork properly, and discuss food problems in sub-Saharan Africa. Both fascinating and terrifying for a 10-year-old. Almost every time I saw her, she would challenge me to be useful and then recite to me Micah 6:8 from the Bible. He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? That passage of Scripture and my grandmother's unconventional determination to fight for social justice were profound influences on my life. They still are. As important as it is to have role models, I also believe it's critical to pay attention to differing points of view. Think about how your life has been enriched by people who disagree with you and challenge you with new ideas. As lifelong learners, we make room for discovery and growth. Part of maturing is the ability to genuinely listen and to evaluate new information. Then we test those new opinions against our personal convictions. That goes back to character. The second question is closely related. How will you define success? I want to be clear that I am not equating successful with rich, nor am I making the correlation between people who are rich and people who are happy. In fact, I know of people whose dogged pursuit of acquiring more money and more things has led to misery and even tragedy. Research indicates that many people equate rich to someone who makes twice as much as I do. Turns out that holds true whether you make $30,000 a year or $1 million a year. No question that life is easier when you have money. However, once you can pay the bills and accrue some savings, studies show that there is very little correlation between wealth and happiness. You can be rich in so many ways. The story from up I-55 in Memphis is a powerful example. It's been my privilege to get to know Alan and Catherine Barnhart over the years. Alan and his brother Eric grew up learning their father's construction business. They wanted to be successful, but they didn't want riches to damage their lives. Alan increasingly worried that could happen. So the brothers vowed to cap their income, earning no more than the middle-class members of their Sunday school class. They decided to give 90% of the company to God, so they put the ownership into an independent trust they did not control. Because of that commitment, Alan says the brothers never argued about money. About half of all company earnings are donated immediately to various causes. The other half is used to grow the company. In the first year of running their own business, they gave away $50,000. The company became wildly successful to the point they were giving away $1 million a month. Employees and their spouses help determine where those gifts will be made. The brothers decided to go even further and gave the entire company away. They're still responsible for daily operations, but the family will never reap its accrued value. They kept none of it. There was no safety net. They didn't have other holdings. They believe their wealth has come from their convictions. Alan is quick to emphasize that his salary cap was not a vow of poverty. We have vehicles and air conditioning. It's not a Mother Teresa lifestyle, he says. However, he adds that he's glad that his 6 children did not grow up wealthy. The Barnhart kids didn't get trips to Disney World or even treats at the grocery store. Instead, their parents took them to developing countries to see the wells, churches, and farms their gifts had enabled. For their family, it wasn't about things, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about wanting. Early on, Alan and his wife taught their children the joy of giving and of contentment. Wow. What a gift. And how countercultural. I tell this story because it illustrates so clearly the goals that this family set for their lives. Now, not everyone is called to make the kind of commitment the Barnharts have made. I'm actually very humbled by their story. But we can learn a lot from them about aligning our decisions around our principles and beliefs. They determined that one of the things that most important for their lives was to respond to the needs of others. They wanted to serve, so they designed their business plan to make that happen. Service is a doorway by which we enter so many positive places together. At Habitat for Humanity, we've discovered that having people from different backgrounds work together to build a home is literally constructive. When people come together to work toward a goal they believe in, they realize that the things that make us different are much less significant than the things that unite us. One of the toughest parts of this year of sheltering in place has been the difficulty in physically helping others. We've suffered such a loss of community. Usually in a disaster environment, people rally to help each other. COVID-19 has been a different kind of disaster, and sheltering in place has made it very difficult to have those personal connections. Some of my saddest moments have been making visits to communities devastated by hurricanes, earthquakes, and the like. I've also been deeply touched by extraordinary examples of sacrifice and giving. I'm guessing that for some of you graduating today, some of your earliest memories may have been of Hurricane Katrina. That was the worst housing disaster to hit the Gulf Coast in modern times. I remember thinking when I came to the area, I had never seen the scale of devastation that I witnessed in Biloxi and Bay St. Louis and across the Gulf Coast. I wondered what it would take to really matter, to make a difference in helping families rebuild their lives. At Habitat, we set a goal to help 10% of all low-income families who had lost a home. That would mean building about 5,000 homes in a region where before the hurricanes, Habitat affiliates from Alabama to Texas had built about 57 houses a year. In the years following Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, We built, rehabilitated, or repaired more than 6,000 homes in the region. And the Mississippi Gulf Coast affiliate of Habitat became the largest home builder in the state. What was so amazing was the outpouring from around the world of neighbors writ large wanting to help neighbors. In my experience, serving others and connecting to something larger than ourselves, like the Barnharts did, is where we find true joy. For me, it's what drives real meaning in life. One of the great risks, I would suggest, is setting the wrong goals, like focusing too deeply on financial targets or social status. So how will you define success? What is it that you want to accomplish in your life? That leads to the third question, and perhaps the most difficult for many people to answer. What am I uniquely wired to do? Around the country this month, commencement speakers will likely be talking about following your passion. If I had done that, I would have attempted a basketball career. There's only one small problem: giftedness. If I were 6 inches taller, could leap 20 inches higher, and expand my shooting range by, well, a lot, I would have been all set. Living in the dorm my sophomore year with two guys named Jordan and Worthy reinforced the idea that talents and abilities don't always match our passions. So perhaps the right equation is purpose equals passion plus ability plus a worthy cause. Theologian Frederick Buechner said, "You will find your purpose where the deep gladness of your heart and the world's great need meet." Where the deep gladness of your heart and the world's great need meet. Sometimes gladness and struggle are intertwined until you work through the things that trouble you. I discovered the deep calling in my life when I left a job with a ferocious non-compete clause that prevented me from working. I suddenly had a lot of time on my hands. I took a trip to rural India and worked alongside the Bungi, the poorest, most marginalized group in that country. At that time, the only jobs they were allowed to do were to hand clean latrines and clean up after dead animals. And without some intervention, half of the children in those communities were dying before their 13th birthday. Half. Seeing children living in those conditions devastated me. It was what Clarence Jordan, pastor and spiritual father of Habitat, called divine irritation. Often, when people watch a terrible event on television or in the news, they shake their heads and say, "Someone ought to do something about that," and change the channel. Divine irritation is when you watch the same event and it wrecks you. It's when God seizes you by the scruff of the neck and gives you such a sense of urgency that you have to respond. That's what I felt working with those beautiful children. At that point, I knew God was reaching out to me, and I was fairly sure I wanted to devote the rest of my life to serving the world's poor. Some of you may have experienced such moments of divine irritation in your lives, and many of you may have not, and that's okay. I was married, had children, had been a corporate executive for 15 years before really confirming my call. Divine irritations that move us to action are not always bolt of lightning moments. Sometimes the nudges come gradually. I would urge you to pay attention to the things that gnaw at you over and over. Those are the things that will move you to take action, that will motivate you to make this world a better place. This next season of life is a time to learn as much about the world as you can, to gain experience, and to struggle with the things you can't get out of your mind. This is also time for making decisions about who you will become. My hope for each of you is that you will always have at least one friend with whom you can be fully transparent and who loves you for who you are and not for what you do. I also hope you will be that friend. Finally, I want to be very honest with you and tell you that pursuing your calling will require sacrifice. But when you experience a moment of divine irritation, you simply have to respond. After that powerful experience in India, I came home on fire, looking to find an opportunity to address global poverty issues. But I went through a long waiting period, searching for the right mission or organization. Unexpectedly, I was asked to become the administrative pastor at my local church. People I trusted for career advice thought that move would be career suicide. However, my wife and I prayed about it, and we believed that taking the church job was what I was supposed to do. It turned out to be a wonderful opportunity to learn and grow. And I never would have expected it, but it was just what I needed to prepare me for taking the next step to lead Habitat, which came when I wasn't looking 2 years later. I urge you to create space in your life for reflection and listening. That will give you time to focus on your character, clarify your definition of success, and find your calling. In closing, I'd like to offer you this traditional Franciscan blessing. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may wish for justice, freedom, and peace. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world, so that you can do what others say cannot be done. And all God's people said, amen. Godspeed, class of 2021.
Mr. Reckford, thank you for sharing those insightful perspectives and for your words of challenge and encouragement. Now is the time you've all been waiting for. We will now confer degrees on all candidates for graduation. All candidates will be presented with their diplomas in individual school ceremonies. Before we proceed, I would like to note that today's ceremony includes many scholars who have taken varied paths, from undergraduate students to graduate students. And among you, a group among you, attended the fall convocation 4 years ago, where you were given a coin. At that time, it was given to you because it symbolized the beginning of your academic journey at this university. We hope it has been a time of excitement, enlightenment, and challenge. At that convocation in the fall of 2017, you were asked to be mindful of the moment you shared with those seated around you, hearing the same message as you all embarked on this path together. And now, 4 years later, many of you have completed the bookends of your academic journey. We hope that you will treasure this coin and everything it symbolizes. May it serve as a special reminder of your time here, the things you've learned at the University of Mississippi. We thank you for being part of our family. We will now recognize the candidates for degrees by school or college, and I will introduce the dean, who will stand in place and remain standing as the graduates of his or her respective schools are called and presented. On behalf of Dr. Lee Cohen, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Professor of Psychology, I am pleased to present the candidates for bachelor's degrees in the College of Liberal Arts. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Professor Ben Cooper, Senior Associate Dean of the School of Law, Professor of Law, and Frank Montague Jr., Professorship of Legal Studies and Professionalism, I am pleased to present the candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Dave Palaio, Dean of the School of Engineering and Professor of Biomedical Engineering, I am pleased to present the candidates for the bachelor's degrees in the School of Engineering. Will the candidates please rise and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Amy Wells Dolan, Associate Dean of the School of Education and Professor of Higher Education, I am pleased to present the candidates for bachelor's degree in the School of Education. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. David Allen, Dean of the School of Pharmacy and Professor of Pharmacology, I am pleased to present the candidates for degrees in the School of Pharmacy, including those candidates for the Doctor of Pharmacy. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Ken Cyree, Dean of the School of Business Administration and Professor of Finance, I am pleased to present the candidates for bachelor's degree in the School of Business Administration. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? The Doctor of Philosophy, Doctor of Education, Doctor of Arts, Specialist, and Master's degrees are awarded by the Graduate School. On behalf of Dr. Annette Cluck, Dean of the Graduate School and Professor of Leadership and Counselor Education, I am pleased to present the candidates for degrees in the Graduate School. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Mark Wilder, Dean of the Patterson School of Accountancy, Professor of Accountancy, and KPMG Chair of Accountancy, I am pleased to present the candidates for bachelor's degree in the School of Accountancy. Will the candidates please rise and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Pete Grandjean, Dean of the School of Applied Sciences and Professor of Exercise Science, I am pleased to present the candidates for bachelor's degrees in the School of Applied Sciences. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Deborah Winger, Interim Dean of the School of Journalism and New Media and Professor of Journalism, I am pleased to present the candidates for bachelor's degrees in the School of Journalism and New Media. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? On behalf of Dr. Tony Amater, Associate Provost, Dean of General Studies, and Associate Professor of Management and Management Information Systems, I'm pleased to present the candidates of the bachelor's degree from the Office of General Studies. Will the candidates please stand and remain standing? Chancellor Boyce, I have the honor to present these candidates who have been recommended by their respective deans and approved by the university faculty for the various university degrees.
Now comes the best part of this position, ladies and gentlemen. So by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the State Institutions of Higher Learning, the university faculty recommending, I now confer upon each of you the degree to which you are entitled with all the rights, privileges, immunities, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Now it's time we cut loose. Congratulations to all of our graduates. Please be seated. Across the world, these ceremonies are referred to as graduation or commencement. Today, you have built a piece of your legacy by completing your work as students at the university. Yes, you graduate. You also begin the next chapter of your lives. You commence. Our collective prayer for each of you is a life filled with joy, good health, an ongoing love of learning, successful, meaningful careers, and peace. As you go forward in life, I know you will be outstanding ambassadors for this great university. Through your example, continuing your trajectory of accomplishment and fulfilling all your dreams in the process. And remember that we are always here for you, cheering on your successes and eager to welcome you home whenever you visit. God bless each of you.
The details of individual school ceremonies are in the program you received this morning. We ask that you keep your copy of the program for those ceremonies. The University of Mississippi Medical Center commencement will be held on Friday, May 28th at the Trade Mart on the Mississippi State Fairgrounds. This event is not open to the public. Only UMMC graduates and official UMMC faculty and staff will be allowed to enter. The event will be live streamed. For your convenience, several dining options across the campus will be open this afternoon. Ms. Erica Wheeler, who will receive the Master of Music degree with emphasis in music performance, will lead us in singing the alma mater. The words are printed in the back of your program. One final word. In keeping with the setting of today's ceremony, there will be no formal recessional. And at the ending of the alma mater, the ceremony will conclude. Please stand and as Miss Wheeler comes forward to lead us.
Way down south in Mississippi, there's a spot that ever calls, where among the hills enfolded stands old alma mater's halls. As the trees lift high their branches to a whispering southern breeze, their old miss is calling, calling to our heart's fond memories.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Pleasure. My pleasure. Good job.